I'm going to just go into this fourth question right away. The fourth question is, what is the remedy for peace? I think this is very important. And also, please provide not only the short term, but also the long term, and elaborate on it extensively. Thank you. Fabrizio?
Yeah, as usual, short reply to the points raised by my friend Nurul. Short question. Nurul, when have you been the last time in Russia?
It was 2000, I believe, 14, before 2014.
Fair enough. I was in Russia 10 days ago. I've been in Omsk and Tomsk. I've been around both Omsk and Tomsk. This statement about the level of poverty and the fact that behind the Moscow Ring Road there is nothing are quite ridiculous to me. I'm sorry, because really I just saw quite deep Russia. You see, no, not Moscow nor St. Petersburg, Western Siberia, quite going around. Condition of the road, perfect. I traveled by train, train in time, well-maintained train stations, quite friendly person, and more of that. I was a representative of a belligerent country, because you know the position of my country vis-a-vis the war in Ukraine. But no one had nothing to say about that. You see, so really, Nurul, I can really not agree on this kind, on the basis of personal experience, not on the basis of opinion, not on the basis of my position, political, on the basis of I just experienced being there less than 2 weeks ago. It's the weapons competition, the race of war. Again, Nurul, there are quite facts there that can be used instead of emotional. The United States dropped the first nuclear bombs without any military need for that against a country that was de facto already destroyed and ready to surrender as Japan. The United States has always been the first driver of the weapon race since 1945 up to our days in the world. These are not my opinion. These are matter of facts. I'm sorry. Then, in Ukraine, again, clear statement on this. War in Ukraine is first of all the responsibility of the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and the European Union as a stupid vassal behind these two powers. So the solution of this conflict should start on the side of those that made the most to have this conflict in Europe today. The short-term solution, of course, is a frozen conflict, and something like what we have seen already in the Caucasus, in Georgia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia. There should be a line of contact, a division line, and then the situation can linger on for years until there will be new equilibrium of powers in Europe. Of course, the full solution of this conflict, as in the Caucasus, the same, will be in the moment that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the most important factor of instability in Europe nowadays, will be removed, will be abolished, as it should have been already in 1991, at the moment when its opponent, the Warsaw Treaty Organization, was dissolved, as all wise people, all people really concerned with the well-being of their populations, like George Kennan, the person that was at the base of NATO strategic concept at the moment when there was a real threat of war in Europe, when there was a Soviet Union well established and with a good army. So the same person that was at the origin of NATO concept in 97, in front of the perspective of NATO expansion, was telling to Bill Clinton, responsible person of this absurdity and criminal error that was NATO expansion. What the hell are you doing? You are creating the base of war and instability in the European continent, as it happened indeed last year in February. So the problem with Russia in this war is the fact that they are overreacting. Sometimes you have the impression that they're playing according to what their opponents would like them to play, but they cannot be deemed as the main responsible of this war in any case. So the short solution should be a line of conflict, a ceasefire. Ukrainian side has no moral stance. Again, in this war for 8 years, they've been bombing their own population, what they pretended to be their own citizens in the Donbass. So they have been bombing them for 8 years. They have no right anymore to be sovereign power on this land. So the final solution should also systematize the fact that the people in the Donbass didn't want to live under Kiev. There will be a solution when in Kiev there will be responsible people that will understand that Ukrainian has been the pawn in a bigger strategy on the side of the Atlantic powers, that we recognize their fault in this, and they should recognize also to have lost to this extent, in front of their people, not in front of Moscow, but in front of the people that they pretend to be their citizens that have been bombing for 8 years.
Past topic, but also a replic, but it's going to be very short, and then I will jump into the main topic of this point of the discussion. So you said the US dropped a bomb without any particular need, and I just talk about myself. I mean, was there any particular need in Kazakhstan to be exploding Russian bombs testing in Semey on site, which people suffered from? That's point A. Point B, was there any point to take away cattle, food, all the stuff during the collectivization so that it led to deaths of 4 million people? And it was not only Kazakhstan, it was in Ukraine too, Holodomor. So a lot of people that we lost, you know, and by now population of Kazakhs would have been quite large. And that was a very, 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 very bad damage. Anyway, that's a replic. Now I will return to the main topic of the discussion. What's the remedy at this point? What's the remedy to stop, or what's the remedy to stop this sort of aggression? I think we both look at the perspective of, to some certain degree, of being dissatisfied with the policies of our opponents, political opponents. In my case, it's Russia. In your case, it's West. But I mean, the negotiations, these roundtables, conferences, they don't work as such. Therefore, I'm not even talking about that. This переговоры negotiations that has taken place, Normat format, you know, that they had in Belarus several times, and it never worked. It led only to escalation of disagreements between the sides. So the best, I think, is it's also to educate people at the local level in Russia so that they hold their authorities responsible for what their authorities are doing. So they will start with the democratic processes, and they will make strikes. They will go on the streets. They'll take Putin off his bunker, and that's the end of the conflict. That's the main pivotal point of the conflict. Putin, that has maniacal ideas of maintaining Soviet Union back. Soviet republics. That's why I'm saying that he's counting on now exhausting his military forces. He's counting now on the former Soviet republics to be sending them military forces. So my point of view is only Russians who can actually make difference there. And we all heard of what happened in Belgorod right now recently, and I think it's a good sign. I think if it progresses that way, soon we're going to see other nations separating themselves from Russia. And what it's going to be, it's going to be only people behind Volga. That's about it. So that's my prognosis, forecast of what's going to happen, and that's probable solution to the peace to the war situation. It's where actually you have to exterminate the aggressor, like it happened with situation with Hitler. He exterminated himself, but I don't know what's the end going to be. Sad end going to be for Putin. Thank you.
We basically approached the last question, which will be the culmination of this, but this doesn't mean this is the end of it. We can continue on this in the future also, as well. The fifth question, let's assume for a moment that US isn't the cause, as Russia puts it. Let's analyze this and dig deeper. What is the root of the cause? Give us the bigger picture. Thank you. Fabrizio, please.
Yeah, I don't think I can really elaborate on this question, because it's like if you were asking me, let's talk about the case of raping, and let's assume that there was no raper. You see, what you cannot imagine this situation in Ukraine without the American meddling into Ukrainian affairs. So really, I see really no point in elaborating this. But yeah, some point to specify what we just said before. But yeah, you see Putin as the main culprit, and everything that is related to him as the cause of the continuation of the conflict. This is I cannot quote a single author, international expert would agree with you. All agree that in case Putin was eliminated, that we have a risk to have someone even more aggressive than him at power, someone that will have no remorse in dropping more powerful bombs, even to use the tactical nukes. So really, it's quite a dangerous way of reasoning, what I see when you try to justify everything. There is no will inside of Putin to restore the USSR. As I said, he has quite a predatory kind of elite, capitalist elite around them. All they want is to have their interest, their economic interest in the former Soviet space guaranteed. That was exactly what the European and Anglo-Saxon tried to do in Ukraine, to remove all the economic connection of Ukrainian territory to Russia and to have everything under their control. So again, this is the problem of the war. This is something that we should acknowledge, all of us, to overcome this painful situation. The fact that you talk about exterminate the aggressor is really pitiful and very dangerous. Really, Nurul, you're not there. You're not on the line front. Bombs are not dropping on your head. Really invite you to use another kind of vocabulary, because it's this kind of hate speech that creates this war and the risk to make out of this even something more dangerous. Again, going to the Ukrainian regime today, what people should understand in Kiev is they want to join Europe. They have been completely outside any kind of European idea. At the core of European project, we have the will to overcome enmity, to overcome hatred, to build a new kind of future together. What they did, the French and the Germans after 45. At the opposite, the whole Ukrainian project of today has been built on hatred and fear that were dominating the western region of Ukraine. And this kind of agenda was imposed to the rest of the countries. And for sure, the people in the East didn't want to participate in this kind of project. So really, let's think about this. That's the reason why Ukraine cannot win. This Ukrainian regime will not win. And let's hope that things will move in another direction than the one that you're proposing.
I know sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree with all of our points. It's normal in a democratic society in the first place to have their own point of view. But again, I mean, if we're talking about me mentioning exterminating Putin, it's one of the ways fighting terrorists, and that's what everybody does. That's what Russia is doing. That's what the whole world does to terrorists. And I cannot see any other naming for Putin right now. And that's why I'm coming from that. And it's not hate speech. It's self-protection. It's a protection of the world from danger that can happen, because Putin has made himself his vocabulary that he used, that he's threatening Europe now with a nuclear weapon. That happened already, and that's pretty bad. I mean, that's where the hate of speech is coming from. And I'm only responding to the situation. And you probably know, I mean, from our friendship, I've never been like very aggressive or anything like that guy, and very tolerant to different point of views. But at the same time having my own. Also, when you mentioned about Ukraine, I just want to make a replic that I actually lived in eastern Ukraine for quite a while, and in Donbass, in Severodonetsk, and I was working there on one of the projects where we were rebuilding the roads, which were bombed actually by Russians, rebuilding the roads, rebuilding the infrastructure, houses, helping Ukraine basically, and that's what the aggressive US is doing. They're actually helping Ukraine to resurrect from problems, to not focus on the war, focus on. And that happened actually before the war. That happened when there was a conflict in Donbass and Luhansk. And I always had a question. I mean, who is actually bombing? Because we never saw military guys bombing from one side to separatist side. Rather, the comments that we got from all the people, both for Russian and for Ukrainian, they were saying that Ukrainian forces are not hitting the houses because separatists are hiding in the houses, in the big houses yards, and shooting towards Ukrainian army. And the Ukrainian army cannot do the same to exterminate them because they're afraid to hit the houses where the people live. So that's the reality. I mean, it's the same example that you bring. You were in Russia, I was in Ukraine recently, so I know more about it. From the real factual based perspective. Now, to the last point that we're discussing, it's like, let's assume for a moment that US isn't a cause, as Russia puts it. I think we at length already spoke about all these superpowers, let's say, view of the situation. And I think there is a lot of propaganda going on. And I must say this, and it's one of the strongest points, because along with the war, with the physical war, where people get killed, people's brain get killed also by the propaganda and informational wars. And in this digital age, this cybersecurity, there's been a lot of, and we know that there is a troll factory in Kremlin that has created this informational influence over the other republics, and informational influence over the people's heads, and they're forming certain agenda. They're also paying money to print paid articles in the West. So that has difference, that creates difference of opinions, which is normal. I mean, not paying, but not like doing propaganda, but normal to have your opinion. But then in the end, you always return back to the ideals of what is good, what is bad. And you cannot judge what is good, what is bad, just yourself. So you then use world examples to compare. As I said in the beginning of this video, that there are some best practices in the world of democracy. They still stay same, no matter whether it's how US views, as I said, through propaganda, Russia, or how Russia views US through their propaganda. Well, yeah, we're not bringing China into the picture, but they also have their interests, geopolitical interests, and we know that they're supporting Russia, but they're not taking active participation in a military operation. Their interest is land. So that's all about resources, I think, in the end. And the only thing I would say in conclusion of my speech is that no matter what, no matter how, I still believe that there are diplomatic ways of resolving things. And this propaganda is actually was used to say that NATO is trying to approach Russia. That's why we're attacking Ukraine, because next NATO is going to put their weapons in Ukraine. And well, that's solid propaganda from my point of view. And I believe, and I like to have it less than that.
Yeah, Nurul, first of all, I was not there in Donbass, but I had a number of friends that were working with me in Georgia before they were there, and they confirmed that the Ukrainian army was bombing the civilian population. My question to you is that it's very interesting where you're working now, this NGO Freedom for Eurasia. Unfortunately, I had no time to dig into your work, but I saw quite interesting items on the site. And one of direction of your work is this regarding assets return, wealth that was stolen by the regime, like the Nazarbayev one, from the people of Kazakhstan. And my question regarding to this is, don't you think you talk about enablers, or not you, but there is this concept of enablers, no? What allowed these kleptocratic regimes like the Nazarbayev one to thrive and to become so powerful and to be 30 years in power in Kazakhstan? Don't you think one of the main enablers to create this situation was exactly the Anglo-American power, specifically in this case, the City of London, and to a less extent, Wall Street from New York, the places where most of the capital stolen to the people of Kazakhstan were secured, and creating also this mechanism, this leverage that the British and the Americans had on the Nazarbayev regime. Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good question actually, and it relates back to actual details of this war, and that's interesting aspect that. If you mentioned Britain, that they have also produced a number of laws that has actually enabled us to trace those assets, and those laws are actually directed to prosecute people who are involved in taking assets away from the country. Society is not as ready as such at the moment. Because the first challenge that they had is to actually get rid of Nazarbayev. And it's like a long list of things they want to be done against Nazarbayev. First, he's gone, stepped down from the power. Second, there's a law about first president was abolished. Third, the streets were renamed. City of Astana gained back its name. Right now, they're talking about removing his security that is provided by the state. Life security, that the guards around him. And then they are going to decriminalize the issue of insulting first president because it was a criminal offense if you insulted Nazarbayev before. All of those, I think, actually done by the way of distracting people's attention from real situation where this elite, corrupted elite, is trying to push through to Kyiv a piece of legislation which gives certain loopholes for autocrats, oligarchs, per se, to take away, to keep the resources, not take away, to keep the resources in the countries where they do have them. The reason why they choose those countries is because, of course, they think there's a stability, and they think that there's order of the law. But those countries started learning more about our part of the world, and order of the law is a question of justice, like universal justice. And as they go along learning about our countries, they understand that those assets are really gained by illegal ways. And that's why there are these laws, that prohibits, and there was a case that Dariga actually was in for a long time. And I don't say that it's a bumpy road. Right now, it's very difficult to actually fight oligarchs and these former communists, basically, Nurul party. And West is doing their first steps toward. But it's not like they are totally covering them because they think that it's money. And no, they think that these assets are, now they're quite sure those assets are gained by illegal ways. And these laws are the first step. And we believe we can do some advocacy in the West to actually make practical steps happen. And soon we will see results of that and money returning back to our economy. there's got to be also a mechanism to appropriate those money returning back and being invested in the proper way so that nation can take advantage of it, not just remainings of the presidential family of the fact. Okay, that's my part about it. I can thank Fabrizio for coming and for such interesting discussion, sharing his point of view, letting me, without hesitation and reactions, mention my point of view. And I would suggest we continue this sort of topic discussions. And I believe we should give a liberty of choosing the topic of discussion to Fabrizio next discussion. So you can communicate to me, and I will contact Chema, and then we will appoint the time whenever the three of us are free. So we can do that again. Thank you all.
Absolutely, we can just do that. The fact that it was so objective and that both sides were able to talk about their points, I think that was pretty grand. So I really appreciate both of you giving the time and consideration. And yeah, looking forward to continuing this. Let's do this again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Same for me. Really a pleasure. Hope to follow on. Let me make a short advertisement of the book that for now is only in Italian, but I hope that through these kind of events, maybe we can find an English-speaking publisher. Let's discuss next time. Maybe we can discuss more about Kazakhstan and Central Asia, whatever. But it was a pleasure. Nice to see you after a long time, and whenever you want to continue.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the future ones. Bye-bye.